So I was browsing around on YouTube and just looking at videos, and I saw this video from somebody who was talking about something he called the gateway process, some CIA process of God and you are God, and that's what it was saying. And I was just kind of looking at it, and he started talking about something. I don't know. I'm not judging anybody at all, consciously, but he seemed like he was really into influencing and subliminal messages and stuff like that. So, kind of like I remember there was a time when actually people were talking about it a lot, and he started talking about this thing, the gateway process, where you listen to some audio track over and over and over again. And then he started talking about something called pendulums, which are like certain, like they're political or they're spiritual or they're physical or metaphysical, but they're basically they're like magnets, where like if you listen to the same thing over and over again, then you start to become that thing that you're listening to or talking about. Like people who watch the news all the time are becoming like the stories that they hear on the television. So the pendulum was basically his idea. I don't really understand it, but it's like it makes sense because if you look at Dr. Hawkins' work, he talks about attractor fields and the power of an attractor field. And each thought that you have, like life is strange, comes up in the attractor field impersonally emanating from consciousness as that thought. And I think there's a pendulum, which is like a magnet on Facebook because it's influenced lots of people. And there have been times when you've almost been, you know, totally like there's somebody else doing this. That's also like like a like a like a belief or something. There's another that there's money involved, or that there's something involved that has to do with some kind of external control. And so I was watching it, and I realized that if if the pendulum, like, idea, the thought, because it's all public information, all the information about us is public knowledge, there really aren't any secrets. It's not just programming or just what you believe or what you think you are, or who you think you are, what you think of yourself or your environment, but it's really got more to do with cascading levels of dominance, where you have no choice but to make a choice. Actually, that's where it's hard to see about free will, because there is no choice but to make a choice at all times. And I was watching a video I wasn't supposed to get from Dr. Hawkins when it was a time I was naive about the copyright. He said that you have no choice but to make a choice. The psyche, the mind, the human will is forced to constantly make a choice. And there's nobody doing that. There's nobody deciding that. So, um, if you look at being interested in spiritual reality and having had experiences of spiritual reality, when you have those experiences, you know it is like nirvana in the work of somebody who's looking at it from a different angle, but it's one experience describing the same thing. And when you, let's say you have a pendulum or an attractor field on Facebook, meaning it's drawing more energy. So there are more people who are talking to you and who you're talking to on Messenger and communicating with. And your memory of the things they've said to you, especially if it was someone who was important to you, become like an attractor field. And then you start saying the same things to the other people. And that's how thoughts and messages get spread. And that's how, if your awareness of somebody who's transcended all that is like a virus, because it shuts down all the programs individually. So you actually end up almost having an obligation or a responsibility to to yourself, really. It comes down to yourself because you're participating in action. So now you have a responsibility to yourself, to be answerable to yourself, to your relationship to life, to your relationship to others, to your relationship to God, you might say, answerable to myself, to God, you might say, answerable um, to your own, uh, to your judgment, really, programming, whatever you call it. Um, just uh, because as you learn and grow and evolve, you see certain nuances that can take everybody out of kind of suffering or pain or confusion, and you don't know exactly how to transmit that, but you feel very grateful. I feel very grateful that certain information is so transformative. And so if you look at a pendulum, this idea from this process, that it's like a group thought form, then you can see how they're pendulums around a lot of different areas of life. And there's probably a pendulum around mental health, mental illness. There's a pendulum around YouTube. These are like collective learnings, like MTV music videos, people playing disharmonic music that keeps us trapped in the lower levels of perception. Um, and then the question is, how do you transcend these energy fields and get to a higher vibration, a higher frequency, where you don't need the mic? You're like transcending all of that. You wake up from that was a pendulum from hypnosis. I mean, there was a few years ago, everybody, including someone I knew, had these slogans that said wake up, waking up. His car said waking up, and there's a picture of a butterfly. And there was a pendulum about the Illuminati. They're like collective thought. So first of all, I want to have my own niche. I don't want to be influenced by things outside of myself. And for another thing, there are certain attractor fields which I want to align with. Um, Out of respect for their integrity and how powerful the information is. And so you're kind of aware of it consciously, but there's something driving you unconsciously. And that is what is driving you unconsciously, is your alignment with that attractor field. So I thought I should make this video and get the information out about pendulums and let people know about it, because I also want to be free of all of the kind of uh, upgrade the computer, the mind's computer, the computer of the mind, where you can start to look at all the definitions you've had about yourself and then just press the button and they're all gone. Like your perception of yourself is determined by your own beliefs about yourself, and they're determined by your own projections and positionalities. And everything you see through that lens of how you see yourself and talk about yourself and think of yourself, because that's coloring your perception. So I don't want to feel like I'm under control from another external kind of control mechanism that's just all in the mind, as an illusion of something that you're holding in mind that's available in other dimensions. I mean, you say this thing all the time, you're going to be a buyer of sweetness and truth because I have come from another dimension to tell you about the revelations. So what's the belief behind that? If you don't believe in causes and you don't see causes, then what's the hidden determinant of behavior that creates that? What is it? The hidden determinant of behavior. This book, Power versus Force, about the hidden determinants of human behavior. And you always feel like there's. So you sit there and you learn and you study and you say, is this benefiting my life? Is this benefiting others? Is there work to be done? I mean, you try to follow the program and be as kind and loving as you can, let go of resentments, juicing negativities, hatreds, greeds, condemnation of individuals, personages. Consciously and unconsciously, you're like, give me more, baby. Yeah, I want it. What you are. And that's why I wanted to touch on it. And also, when you look back on where you've been, how you've thought, how you've acted, and you see the evolution of the ego, your mind, the consciousness that's behind the comings and goings of the world and the higher beings and celestial realms, that you can't really go anymore because of your limited. People don't understand the nature of thought, and tomorrow I gotta go somewhere to do something, some shadow work for some people that tell me it's what you do. And so, he's just gonna keep on going as a somewhat blind. There's no way, even because these glasses that I have, there's a lot of information about me which only certain people know, and some of it I don't even have access to myself because it's hidden from me in files. And the pattern continues to dance like the aurora borealis. And the intention behind some of the things I've said at certain points has come from memory and seeing myself in a movie, like a slide, and there he was saying, I hate myself. And then now here he is saying, I love myself. And here he is explaining to him, to explaining the reason behind it, saying that it had to do with lack of control, not being able to stop smoking. But the secret to it has to do with letting go of your desires and your attachments. If there's one individual that can connect with what's being said, with what I'm saying, from the influence from the attractor field, from the belief in that individual that I'm talking to, and the code is already written in the script, and the whole program's already written down in the movie, and just because it hasn't come to an end yet doesn't mean that it's not there. It's already done, and that's what you do. So learning is really nonlinear, and and you just gotta, people remember what they care to remember, and you're just continuing on your way, while holding the awareness of those that are along with you on your path. And you can't talk about anything that's happened because it's already happened. So to talk about it would just be like a recording. So, pendulums and attractor fields and choice continue like the dance of Shiva. If I want it, it's wonderful. If I don't want it, it's awful. And what is it that witnesses this whole panorama? What is it when you look inside and stop turning your mind into the world? What is your witnessing presence within all of this? And what makes you tick? And that's your subjective experience, because you can't say it's real or it's true unless you've experienced it subjectively. So there's no message happening. It's simply the subjective seeking and looking for the subjective. You see, the king of the jungle. That's the reason. You learn your lessons um, from your parents and your family and your genes and all that stuff. But really, it's a design. It's a design which you're trying now to break through and see if you can find the truth and weed out the false, and find and become that which you are, and take the baggage that you have and just put it on the wayside because you're not needed there, and tend to your garden